Here he is, our good friend, economic advisor to Donald Trump. Steve Moore is on KCMO. He advised him in the White House. He is advising him now as well as he potentially gets set for a return. Steve, good morning. Great to have you here. And how are you this morning?
Good morning. Sorry to be a few minutes late. It's been a busy morning, but I'm doing well. And I don't know if the country's doing so great, but I'm doing just fine. This is going to be one barn burner of an election, isn't it? I mean, it looks like we're headed to a rematch. I think I like Trump's chances. I really do. I was just traveling with him a couple weeks ago, and it's so amazing when you go with Trump. We were flying into Iowa, before the Iowa caucuses, and my God, I mean, people were lining the streets, when his car was going by. I mean, it's like being with one of the Beatles. It was really amazing.
It is. It's going to be a wild ride these next 10, 11 months. But I'm just sitting here. I'm looking at the economy, and we know that the economy is top of mind right now, along with the border for folks. The Fed says yesterday, Jerome Powell says they're not going to cut rates in March. I don't see how they can cut rates right now. Inflation is still higher than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So what do you think this year looks like from Jerome Powell's perspective, and what impact can that have on the election, if any?
I don't think we're out of the woods on inflation by any means. I think this is premature to say that the inflation is behind us. Biden inflation has added 18% to the cost of all goods, and if you look at food prices, they're up by 22%. Groceries. If you look at energy costs, they're up by 30%. If you look at mortgage payments, those are up by 50%. So I don't get this like, oh my gosh, everything's so great with the economy now. That's what the media is saying. And then you ask the American, people in the middle class, and they're like, we're getting squeezed here because there's not that many people whose salaries and wages have gone up by 18% to keep up with the cost of living. And so I think that's the big issue. I think the Fed would be making a mistake if they cut rates, given what's happening right now. You may notice gas prices are creeping up a little bit again. I don't know if they are in your area, but where I am, they are. And so, and let's not forget, gas was $2 a gallon when Trump was president.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned whether or not they cut rates, they can't right now. But there's this perception that if they do later this year, it will be looked at as political.
Political. Right.
Is that fair, though? I mean, I don't want the Fed really doing either raising rates or cutting rates or being afraid to cut rates because they are perceived to be political. If they think it's the right time to cut rates, then cut rates. What do you think about that?
So, I'll give you kind of the big answer to this, which is, as you may recall, I was nominated, I should say, by Trump to be on the Federal Reserve Board. I didn't make it because of all the skeletons in my closet. But the point is that, one of the reasons that they didn't want me on the Fed, I mean, there's a real campaign against me, was because I believe that we should have openness and sunlight in the Fed. And I think it should be, everybody should know what they're doing and what decisions they're making. And I think it should be rules-based. I don't think they should just make this up as they go along. Do you? I mean, I think we should all know what the rule is. And so, what I like to look at is, for example, commodity prices. So you can look at the price of, there's an index of the 30 major commodities, everything from copper to wheat to tin to, natural gas and food. And you can find out what's happening with those prices in real time. I mean, you can go to your iPhone right now and you can see what's happening to those prices. And so I want that to be kind of the measure. When those prices go up, as they've been going up lately, that means there's inflation is coming, right? Because if the price of energy and food goes up, then the price of everything else has to go up. And so there's a long-winded answer, but what I'm saying is I don't want them to make it up. I don't want us to be guessing what they're going to be doing. I want it to be kind of automatic, and that's not what they want to do. They want to play king. A kingmaker, and that adds to politics, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. If you look over the history of the Fed, it is true that the Fed tends to lower interest rates in an election year. Do you think that's just an accident?
Yeah, no, I don't see how it could be. So, so then what? The market's reacting to all this, and the market's flying high. And listen, a lot of people are sitting there and saying, hey, I don't know what you guys are complaining about with the economy. Look at the markets. I mean, this thing is humming right along. As far as I can tell, it's just driven by big tech. I mean, but it's not real on Main Street.
So it is true that, you've got our Magnificent Seven, and that's Apple and Amazon and Google and Tesla and NVIDIA. By the way, I invested in NVIDIA earlier last year, and I made a lot of money on it. But so you have the Magnificent Seven that account for over half of the gains. Did you know that? In the stock market, those 7 companies. So you're spot on correct that they're driving the market. That's a good thing, by the way. I want America to be dominant in the technology industries. But I'll tell you this, though. I just did an analysis. I looked at what the stock return was in the S&P 500 in the first 3 years of the Trump administration versus the first 3 years of the Biden administration. Now, if you look at just the overall rate of return, it's about the same. But there's one big difference between Trump's first 3 years and Biden's first 3 years. You know what that is?
What's that?
Inflation.
Yeah.
So if you adjust the returns, look, this is investing 101. When you make an investment, you're interested in your after inflation, not your before inflation rate of return, right? So if you inflation adjust the returns, the S&P 500 is up about 9% under Biden, which is not very good. It's way below the historical average. And under Trump, you know what the number was?
What's that?
31%.
Wow.
So that's a big, wow is right. That's a big difference. But the real rate of return on stocks was 3 times higher under Trump than Biden. Why is that? Because Trump's policies were pro-business. Biden's policies, for the most part, are anti-business. And so, even on the stock market, and look, there's no question the last 18 months has been really good, but the first 18 months of the Biden administration were a disaster. And I'm here to tell you, if he's reelected, I guarantee you taxes are going to go through the roof. They're going to destroy our energy industry. You're going to see all sorts of policies that are going. The only thing that saved us is that we've had a Republican Congress for the last couple of years that have been able to restrain some of his craziest ideas. But if the Democrats sweep in 2024, boy, it's lights out, figuratively and literally.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, next time you're with the big guy, Steve Moore, you talk to Trump. Yeah. I mean, if he just stays on this economy and immigration, I mean, he's got a great chance if he gets off the beaten path as he's known to do once in a while. He's going to make life a lot more difficult for himself.
I know. You know what? I've always said there's a good Trump and a bad Trump. And, every morning when I, say my prayers, and please, God, let it be the good Trump today, not the bad Trump. I don't like the name calling and that kind of thing. And I just don't like that. But, I have to say lately he's been really good on message about, tell me, what's wrong with Make America Great Again? I mean, they act like if you're for Make America Great Again, you're some kind of villain.
No, you're preaching to the choir on that front. Well, 277 days, Steve. That's 277 more morning prayers out of you, my friend. We always appreciate the time.
You too. Have a great day.
All right, Steve Moore on KCMO. Great to have him here.